Hi.
Alright, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook. Y'all, I am just like in a euphoric state right now. I already had plans for today for this lovely Sunday afternoon, but now this beautiful thunderstorm has appeared. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but it just came out of nowhere. I swear it wasn't in the forecast for today because I was planning on going on a little walk outside later tonight. And now I'm probably not going to, which I'm not mad about because I have been planning. I've been planning for this and the day is finally here. I'm finally giving in to my wants, to my needs. I am rereading the Devil's Night series, my favorite series, I think of all time. The Devil's Night series by Penelope Douglas, I swear to y'all, it was like a cultural reset for me. Before I read Corrupt was the first book by Penelope Douglas that I ever read, and if you guys have watched my channel for a while now, you know that Penelope Douglas is basically my favorite author, for sure one of my favorite authors, and like before I read Corrupt, like I just didn't know books like this existed, and I feel like that makes me sound like a prude or something. That's not what I mean. Like, trust me, I was aware of spicy books. Like, I grew up on Wattpad. Like, I am no saint, but something about Penelope Douglas is just like next level. It just does something to my soul that I can't explain. Like, her style of writing, her like dark romances, the dual point of view, like the spicy scenes and the tension and just everything, it's just off the rails. Like, it's an entire experience. And the first time I read Corrupt, which was a little over a year ago now, like I don't know the last time I was so glued to a book. Like, I could not put this down, and I flew through the whole thing in like one day. Like, it was one of those books where like your eyes were just like hurting and like you wanted to go to sleep so bad, but I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop reading it. So I've been wanting to reread this series for so long now. Like, I wanted to reread it months ago, but I haven't let myself reread things this year, and I don't know why. I just constantly tell myself like, no, you don't need to reread, you need to read something new, like keep going, you've got a long TBR, but like that is not the way to live, and I am over that. Like, if I want to reread something, I'm just gonna do it now, and with spooky season being upon us, the Devil's Night series, like this is just the time. Like, it is set in Devil's Night, a big part of the series is, which is the night before Halloween, like the dark romance aspect. It's just so perfect for this time of year, and so I am giving in. I'm giving in to my urges, I am doing it. But yeah, guys, I don't totally know what this video is going to be. I just kind of casually mentioned on my Instagram that I was planning on rereading the series, and I got so many comments and DMs asking me to vlog it, because that's another thing I love about this series. Like, it has brought me so many new friends, so many people into this little community. Like, I do not get more messages about any other book or series than I do about this series, and that just like brings a smile to my face. The amount of people that tell me like they found out about the Devil's Night series, or they found out about Penelope Douglas through me, like it just blows my mind, because again, she's like one of my favorite authors. So like, if I can introduce her to other people, crazy what the internet can do. But yeah, I'm just gonna read this book, read this series. We're gonna obviously start with Corrupt, and I did something fun and exciting that I don't normally do. I got some tabs, and I think I'm gonna do a little annotating moment. I'm not a big annotator. Like, I always have a highlighter and a pen next to me when I read, and like if something just blows my mind, I will like highlight it or underline it. But I am not like a lot of the annotators that I see on Bookstagram. I don't tab. If I do tab, like I just do it in one color. Like, I've never done like the category tabbing, but I definitely want to do something like that for the reread of this series. Like, I just think it'll be so fun, because this is totally one of those books and one of those series where like the more you read it, the more you will like go back and like catch things you didn't catch the first time. Like, so much of this series is centered around one night that happened, and it's constantly flashed back to. So like, I am just gonna love experiencing that night again for the first time, and like knowing what I know now and knowing how the series ends. Like, I just can't wait to see how that happens. So I don't totally know what I'm gonna do for tabs yet. My friend Ashley from Instagram, actually, we're kind of reading this at the same time. We're doing like a little bit of a buddy read. Like, we're just gonna send each other like voice notes and stuff along the way and just gush over the series, because she might be the only other person that I know that loves the series as much as I do, to a point of like We talk about it all the time, like on a daily basis. Like we just are constantly thinking about it, and we both love Will. Will Grayson the third is like our favorite book boyfriend, or one of our favorite book boyfriends. Like we just are obsessed with him, and his book is our favorite. Like we just love him. So I know for sure that I want to do a tab completely dedicated to him. Like anything Will does that just like makes me smile or warms my heart, like I'm gonna give him his own color. I'm for sure gonna do a color for like Devil's Night flashbacks or like foreshadowing things that I catch this time that I wouldn't have caught the first time. I feel like these two tabs I want to do for like super tense moments that have me like getting goosebumps and stuff. And then the red, I think I want to do like the really spicy moments or the spicy scenes, like those scenes that just stay in your brain that like I remember that I'm looking forward to reading again. Also, Will is my favorite, but like Winter is my favorite girl. I know they're not a couple together, but like Winter's my favorite girl, Will's my favorite guy. So I feel like I kind of want to do a Winter tab. I might do like a Winter / Damon tab, like give them their own color. I don't know. I'm gonna sit here and figure it out. Again, I haven't really done this before, so this is new to me. I'm not putting too much pressure on it. I'm just gonna kind of like go with the flow. But yeah, as I have things to say, I will just kind of jump in and talk to you guys. If this isn't obvious, like this is going to be very much a spoiler filled video. If you haven't read this series yet, I wouldn't recommend watching this. I have other videos about each of the books in the series where I don't give spoilers, so I would go and watch those if you're interested in that, and then come back to this like after you've read it so that you can sit in this with me and just enjoy it with me. But yeah, I don't want to have to hold back at all. I want to just talk about this, and like I want this to just be like a fun little open chill space to talk about this series that I and you and anyone watching this love so much. But yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling and I'm gonna start rereading this book, and I am so excited. Yeah. Y'all, I am having the best time. Like it has been over an hour and I am only on like chapter 3. I am just taking my sweet time. I am tabbing and highlighting like anything that my little heart pleases. Like it is just so fun starting this big grand series over from scratch and seeing all of these characters that I know so well being introduced for the very first time, like just down to like their character descriptions and like the things about them, like the car they drive, and just like with the 4 horsemen, it's like there's certain masks they wear, and just like the things about them, the way they're described, kind of like all the foreshadowing that you can pick up, like how like just certain things are pointed out where if you wouldn't, like if you didn't know, if you haven't read the series, you wouldn't think about it. But now that I have read it, like I'm just picking up on so many little things, and I am just loving it. I'm having so much fun. Like literally, I had to wonder. I was like, okay, if I start this over, I've read so many books since I've read Corrupt, so many spicy books. Like I've read almost every Penelope Douglas book so far. I'm like, is this not gonna hit as hard as I thought it did the first time, just because it was the first time I read it? Again, it felt like a culture shock. Like maybe it won't hit that hard, but literally again, I'm only 3 chapters in. I think I'm only on page like 30. Okay, I'm on page like 50 almost. Yeah, page 50. I'm so into it. Like I am on the edge of my seat. Just the way this story is set up, like the flashbacks to Devil's Night 3 years ago, the present day, like literally whenever she saw the 3 guys like standing outside her window with their masks, and she had that like, oh my God, why would they be here? What is going on? Like I was like screaming and kicking my feet. I was so excited. I did want to show you guys the little tabbing system that I came up with. This took me so long. Like I sat here and I thought about it, and I picked different colors, and I went back and I switched them out, and then I had to just completely start over. I ended up doing something different, and then the color system was throwing me off. Even like as I started reading it, I realized there were other things I wanted to do. So this took quite a while to come up with, and I think I'm happy with it for now, but I might change it again, who knows. I'm planning on like cutting this paper, I feel like, in half and just slipping it in the front of Corrupt, so if I ever want to like reference it again, that's what I'll do. But this is what I have so far. I'm doing general quotes, just like quotes that I like. And see, this is what's hard too. I don't really tab, so I'm struggling to decide, like, because I'm highlighting a ton of things, so I'm like struggling to figure out when I actually need to tab something. And I keep telling myself, like, if you want to go back and look at this, like if this is something that you know, flipping through, you would stop at any tab, like if you read it, would you be like, yes, like this is something that I want to remember? Like that's what I'm trying to do. But I'm getting a little tab crazy at the same time. Whatever, again, I'm just having fun. But this little light pink, I'm doing just general quotes, just quotes that I like. It doesn't really have any like specificity to it, just quotes that I enjoy. And then this is kind of in no particular order, but moments that are tense. Like there's a lot of tension in Penelope Douglas books. Like there's lots of moments where you just literally can feel like the goosebumps on the back of your neck. And in this book especially, it almost has like some thriller aspects to it. So this is kind of like for sexy tense moments, but also like scary, thrilling, tense moments where you're like, oh shit, like what is going on? Like moments where you get freaked out. Like I just remember having so many of those in this book where I was like on the edge of my seat, like what is about to happen? So that's what this tab is for. And then this is my oh my god tab, like with a period between each word. My intention for this is like the hardcore, like spicy moments, or just the really crazy moments, or the moments just like where my jaw hit the floor. Like that is pretty much the criteria for this. I don't think there will be like too many of these because these are like reserved for the special like, oh my god, holy shit moments. Like that is the plan for that. And then this kind of like dark purpley color I am using for foreshadowing. So anything that I read now where I'm like, oh my god, like I know, knowing what I know now, like this kind of references something, or this kind of like hints at something that's gonna happen later on. Just moments that now make me smile because I know things that I didn't know the first time I read it. That's what this is for. And then this dark gray one is Devil's Night flashbacks. So any flashbacks to that original Devil's Night that like the whole series kind of centers around, like moments from that that are really special, that I really enjoy. I'm gonna use that one for. And then these are my 3 little character tabs. Will Grayson has his own tab, of course, because he is my favorite guy in this whole book. So he has this little gray tab because he is Will Grayson. This was the hardest thing for me, deciding these character tabs and what color I wanted to do for them. I still don't know that I'm obsessed with it because like Will Grayson, like it makes sense for me like that it's gray, but he's also my favorite. So I'm like, I feel like he needs a fun color, but I'm trying to be kind of aesthetic. It's not that serious, but yeah, his is gray. And then Damon, originally I had Damon and Winter combined. But like there's so many iconic Damon moments, and right away like there were so many moments like when he was being introduced and when Erica is first like talking about him and stuff, that I just like I wanted to tab it with just Damon. Like it didn't make sense for it to be combined. So I gave him his own tab. It's this kind of like bluish grayish color. And then Winter, who we won't see too much of in this book, like it should just be like 1 or 2 tabs, I feel like, has this kind of like light bluish greenish. It looks a lot brighter on the camera, but that's her little tab. So that's where we're at so far with this. And again, I'm just having a grand old time. I already know, like I didn't flip to that page yet, but I know the next chapter is the first chapter we get in Michael's point of view. Let me check to make sure so I don't sound like a goon. Let's see. Yep, chapter 4, Michael, present. I already remember when this happened the first time and I was like, oh my god, wait, it's like switching POVs, like we're gonna see Michael's perspective. I was like, wow. So I'm gonna keep going. Having a fantastic time. Y'all need to do this. If you've been wanting to reread a book, if you want to go back and annotate a book, like just do it. Literally, this is what keeps our love of reading alive. Like I just feel like a kid in a candy store, but okay, yeah. I'm gonna go back to it. Okay, hello guys. I am literally fully in my jammies right now, wearing a Twilight t-shirt from Hot Topic circa like 2009. But guys, I'm just laughing because I'm on chapter 8 right now. I keep forgetting that Trevor exists. Like every time his name pops up, I'm like, oh yeah, you. And now like knowing what I know, seeing every time he pops in, I'm just like, you little rat. Like every time I see Trevor, that is my thought and reaction. I am just loving re-experiencing Damon from the beginning, especially like that has been such a fun experience because it's like, he just has such a journey, such a character arc. And it's like, I know in the beginning we're supposed to be terrified of him and like he's like totally the bad boy, but it's like he's just so intriguing and mysterious. And just again, like knowing what I know about him, knowing how much I'm gonna grow to love him, it's making me just like love him out the gate. Like every little thing he's doing, like the things about him that initially I would have been like, wow, what a dick, now I'm just like, oh, good old Damon. Like I just love him. I just love him. But yeah, I just realized I hadn't talked to you guys today, so I was just checking back in. But yeah, I'm gonna keep going. This is so fun. Okay guys, I just finished chapter 9 and I just so vividly remember the first time I read this chapter. this is the chapter in this book where it is like the turning point. It was the moment, like the second I finished this chapter for the first time, it was the moment that I was like, oh my God, this is something. This is like nothing I've ever read before. That was the moment where I was gripped and I am like, I am here for this roller coaster. If you need a little refresher, chapter 9 is the chapter where Erica goes to her first class and Will and Damon show up and kick Alex out of the seat next to her, which again, like Alex is so funny, like seeing her as a character now, knowing like everything about her. When initially she showed up, like I didn't think she was going to be important or that big a part of the story or the series, and obviously like we love her. So anyways, Will and Damon show up and like kick Alex out of her seat and like sit on either side of Rika, and they're just like tormenting her and like inching closer, and like she tries to get up and leave, and then Damon threatens to kill her mother if she does, and then the teacher like calls them out, and Rika has this whole moment with the teacher where she like tells him off and whatever, and then Damon like sticks up for her and is like, nobody fucks with you but us. Like that moment when that happened, I was like, oh my God. And then it just gets better because she goes back to the apartment to like confront Michael to see if her mom is okay. Like she wants the phone number to the boat that her mom is on, like out in the middle of the ocean. But literally she sneaks up to his room, and then Will, Damon, and Kai, like the elevator dings and they all come out and they catch her standing there. And then, oh my God, when they insist she goes to the pool party with them, which I'm already like screaming internally over the pool party because I know it's coming. When they all insist that she has to go to this party with them in order for them to give her the phone number, and she says no, and then like Michael like yanks her out of the elevator and they all like cage her in, and then when she loses herself a little bit in that moment and kind of gives in, and like everybody is standing there still caging them in, like internally screaming. And it's so funny because I remember the first time I read that, I was like, oh my God, this book is so, whew, is it hot in here or is it just this book? And like, I had no idea what was coming. So I'm just like, I'm just laughing at innocent little naive Nikki reading this for the first time and having no idea. Like it's so fun reading it again, knowing what's coming again. Like I feel like a broken record, but like, it's just so fun. Also, another thing that's funny that I've noticed, I didn't even initially plan on doing a Damon tab. If you guys remember, I said I was gonna do like a winter/Damon tab just for like moments I loved about them, which I did get to use my first winter tab because I did get to see my first ever like foreshadowing to the whole Will Damon, not Will Damon, LOL, but Will Damon, we'll talk about that later. Winter Damon, like my first reference to the whole like Winter Damon situation popped up, and I'm like, oh, I know what this is about. Like I didn't the first time reading it, but I do now. So I got my first little winter tab in there. But my Damon tab has easily been my most used one. It's the blue one in here, this like dark blue. I wasn't even gonna do it initially, but Damon just has so many little moments, so many little one-liners, and like knowing the character that he is, like seeing those firsthand again and just being introduced to him and just knowing who he is as a character, like those lines are just hitting so much harder now reading them again, like just knowing like he's just this snarky, arrogant, freaking asshole that we can't not love because he's just Damon and he does what he wants and he literally doesn't care about anyone else in the world, and we love him for it. But yeah guys, I feel like I need to stop here because seriously, if I don't stop here, like I won't stop all night, because I remember the first time I read this book, when I got to the end of this chapter, like it was full speed ahead. As soon as the pool party started, I was like, I physically can't stop. And I think that's when I like just didn't put the book down the rest of the night. So I think I'm gonna force myself to stop right now, and then we will return to it tomorrow. But look how pretty she's looking so far with all of her little tabs. Look at me, I'm an annotating queen. I'm just having the best time. But yeah guys, I'm gonna go to sleep and I will talk to you tomorrow. Hello guys. I told myself I was gonna read for a while tonight before I jumped on and talked to you guys, but that pool scene, the pool party scene in the little hidden cave situation, I remembered it. I vividly remembered it, but you know, I've read many things since I've read this book. And like I said, this was a cultural reset for me. It was a culture shock, to be honest. So I thought maybe rereading that, it wouldn't be as like, to me, right? I'm like, okay, I've read many a spicy little scenes. Like, surely it's not that amazing. And it's also like not even that long of a scene. Like, it's literally like 2 or 3 pages. And notice how I have like 2 or 3 bright red tabs, because every damn page deserved one. Like, I don't know what it is, but that scene just like physically does something to me, and I'm over here like, I need to take a break. But there was also the little Devil's Night flashback before that, where all the guys like stood up for Rika against that Miles guy who like had previously tried to drug her, or successfully drugged her. I love the guys in this series because it's like, they are so like not good men, right? Like, they're not good people, and we know that, and we love them still. And it's like, they mess with Rika, they put her through the worst shit. Like, all the girls, honestly, like, they mess with them so much, but it's like nobody else can mess with them. Like, don't even try it. Like, they are the first to like raise hell, tear the world apart if someone else like screws with any of these girls. And that's what I love so much about them. Also, side note, I changed my tab for Damon to this like reddish color, this kind of bright red color, because there were so many Damon tabs and his color was blue, and I felt it was like ruining the aesthetic. So I spent like 10 minutes, oh, I missed one. Okay, I need to go back. I spent like 10 minutes going through and switching out all the blue Damon tabs with red ones, and I can clearly see I missed like 3 or 4 or 5. There were just so many, like literally it felt like most of it was blue, and I was like, the whole point of the book is it's like, you know, the whole aesthetic of the book is the black and the dark and the gray. So trying to keep it matching that. But yeah, I just had to pop in and say that. And the scene that I remember next, the next like ooh la la scene that I vividly remember, and I can't remember if it's present day, I think it's present day, but it's when like Michael and Rika are on the couch together, or they're at her house, and then she gets the phone call from somebody. That scene had me like kicking my feet last time. So can't wait for that. But yeah. Okay, oh my gosh, I just got to the part where we're in the Devil's Night flashback, and it's the first time we see or hear about Emery at all, and we see Will like catch her gazebo on fire. And I remember the first time reading this part being so confused, because I don't think I've mentioned this, but the first time I read Corrupt, I had no idea that this was a whole series, and I had no idea that like there was a book focusing on each guy and each girl. Like, I literally just thought Corrupt was a complete standalone and there were no more books. So I remember like this part being like glossed over, where Will is like pissed about this gazebo and then he wants to light it on fire, and Rika's like, what is going on? And Michael's like, oh, he's in love with the girl that built it, just don't worry about it. And she's like, Emmy Scott, like, she's not his type, is she? And then Michael's like, we want what we want. And I remember that whole part, I was just kind of like, this is kind of like vague and weird, like this random girl they're talking about, like why are we talking about her, who is she? And then she didn't really like, or she didn't at all show up in the rest of the book. So now reading it and knowing that like Will is my favorite, and that whole story and like all their high school flashbacks, like I'm already getting so excited to read Nightfall, because the high school flashbacks in Nightfall are the best in my opinion. Like I love seeing the guys in that book, and I love like getting a closer look at them in high school and how they were and their dynamic, and the whole Will and Emery situation, and how she's like totally not his type and totally like this nerdy girl, and just their whole relationship. Like I'm loving rereading this and seeing it with like new eyes and a different perspective, and like understanding now why he so passionately is burning down this gazebo. Yeah, I just think it's cool. Okay guys, I've been busy. You might notice a lot of red in these recent chapters. Yeah, I was so right. First of all, after Rika's house, like, they catch it on fire, which was really not very nice of them. And then she has to go stay at the Chris' house with Michael, and then they're watching the movie and the mom calls it, and he makes her answer it, and all the things that ensue during that, like, I can't even explain. That is like physical pain. And then the whole, like, admit you like being scared, that whole conversation, and what comes out of that when she won't admit she likes being scared. And then their little flashback to high school and the catacombs, just all of that being like 3 chapters back to back. Like, I just remember the first time reading that being physically overwhelmed. Like, I was just like, oh my God. And like, I don't know how Penelope Douglas manages to just put so much in one book and like so many scenes, but they're all so different and they all make you feel a different type of way. And they're all just like equally so good. Like, I don't know how she comes up with it, but she literally is the best. Like, nobody does it like her. I'm just saying that. But just got to the Devil's Night flashback where Michael pissed me the hell off, from his point of view, whenever Rika finally gets bold and is like, I want you, whatever. And he's like, I want you too. And then he's like, well, but like I want you, but like not right now. And like, I'm leaving and you're staying here, and like, you can't talk to anybody or hook up with anybody. But you also can't have me. Like, that whole conversation. And then she like calls him out on it. It's like, you're a coward. And he like knows he's a coward, but instead of like admitting it, he acts like a little bitch and freaking tries to tell her she's not special and like breaks her heart and storms out, leaving her to the vultures of Damon and Will and Kai, who we love. I don't mean to call them vultures, but in that moment, he totally was leaving her to the vultures. And I'm like, you little rat. So here I am, mad at him all over again. So that seemed like a good place to stop right now. But yeah, it's just as good the second time around. That's all I got to say. 3 words for you guys. The freaking sauna scene. You know what? It was 4 words, but I don't care. It was just as good, if not better this time. It's like, because I knew it was coming this time, the anticipation of it, the suspense of it, like that entire chapter, I knew it was about to happen, and it hit just as hard. Like, the first time I read that scene, I do not know that I've ever been so shocked by anything in my life. Like, I just remember being like, oh, this is happening. Oh, like my jaw just kept like dropping further and further and further until like it could not drop any further. And that's how I felt again. And honestly, I have loved because I knew it was coming, like seeing Kai through a sort of different lens. It's like the first time I read this book, you don't know the guys really, like at all. I mean, you're getting introduced to them obviously. So now that I know like Will, Damon, Kai, Michael, also like intimately, if you will, seeing the individual little things that they say and the things that they do along the way, like it just hits so much harder, and you like know them and you're like, oh my gosh, like it's a whole new experience. So seeing Kai throughout this book and like his sort of like change in character, and see him like express his feelings, and him and Rika's like little heart-to-heart relationship, like all the foreshadowing of like, okay, clearly like something is gonna happen here. It just makes it so much better. But yeah, I've been waiting for that scene this entire book, and now we've just got a teeny tiny bit left. I'm going to finish this baby up, and then we're gonna move on to Hideaway. I'm just having such a good time. Okay guys, I finished, and just that was such an enjoyable experience. I freaking love this book. I love that it is the start to this series. I think it's such a good start to this series. Just the world that it creates, like it leaves you starving for more, and I think it just sets up everything so well. And then now, of course, rereading it, knowing everything that I know, like all the little hints at everything that I just like didn't catch, or I just kind of skimmed over the first time I read it, now it's like made me so excited to just read it all again. The ending does kind of make me giggle. This is just a general like critique that I have of Penelope Douglas. Like, I just love that every one of her books has to end with like immediate marriage proposal and like, let's move into a house together and settle down for the rest of our lives at age like 19, you know? Like, every one of her books is like that. And it's like Michael and Rika finally just admitted that they don't despise each other, and it's like, let's get married, you know? Like, I mean, look, it was cute. Like, him giving her the ring that was from that Devil's Night, I totally forgot about that, and it literally made me smile so much. So, so cute. Like, I'm here for it. But I'm also like, y'all literally just admitted that you don't despise each other anymore, and now it's like, let's get married. It's just a little fast, you know? It's a little bit unrealistic for me. Like, maybe just finish college. I don't know, but whatever. Power couple. I'm not gonna complain. It is a book. I love it. I love them. And now, guys, we're gonna move on to Hideaway. I literally had to order more tabs. These just came in today because I'm completely out of Damon tabs, and I was completely out of like my general quote tabs, because I want to keep the same color for the whole book. I can't decide if I want to keep like the general one the same for every single one, or if maybe I want to switch that out for each book, just so I know that it's like special to that book. I'll think on that for a minute. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna get into Hideaway now. To be honest, this is my least favorite book in the series by far. I don't know what it is. I'm interested to see how I feel about it reading it a second time now, because I think it's not that I didn't like it. I'm not saying that at all, but it's like going from Corrupt to this, they're two very different books. Like, Corrupt is so different from any book in the rest of the series because like there's so much more involved in it. It's the first time you're like learning about everything going on. Like, you get that first initial Devil's Night flashback, you're meeting all the guys, and the way that it's like all the guys against Rika, that kind of like thriller aspect of it where they're all involved and like you don't know what's going on, like it makes for such a different story versus the other books in this series, where I feel like it's a lot more just focused on that specific couple in each of the books. Like this book, because Kai, it's like obviously we see some of him in Corrupt, but like I don't know, once I finished Corrupt and I did not realize that there was a whole series to this world, like I just thought Corrupt was a standalone. Once I figured out what this whole thing was and how each guy had their own book, I was not thrilled to read a whole book about Kai, to be honest. Like, I love the part he plays in Corrupt, like the whole, again, the sauna scene, here for it, but I'm like, I don't know that I care. I don't know that I care, you know? Obviously, it ends up being good, but still, I don't know. It's a bit of like growing pains. It's a bit of a transition going from Corrupt to then going to this book. Obviously, again, I feel like I'm just a broken record now, but there's so many things that happen in this book that like I know that I didn't know going in, so now I'm so excited to experience it for a second time. I'm hoping I'll like it a lot more, but I gotta be honest, like I'm gonna try to kind of fly through this one so that we can get to Kill Switch, because that is really just like where things go off the rails, just like through the roof. So yeah, let's get started on Kai and Banks's story. This should be a good time. Okay guys, I just got to chapter 7, page 119, and it is so funny reading this book a second time because look, I vividly remember whenever I read this for the first time, I started it while on a plane, and I don't know if I was just an idiot, but I had no freaking clue that Banks was Damon's sister. Like, I know she kept saying my brother and whatever, and that she worked at the Torrance house, but I just had no earthly idea that he was her brother. Like, I kept thinking like it was one of those guys. Like, I figured she was attached to the family somehow, but I did not think in a million zillion years that he was her brother. And I didn't realize it until the bell tower, whenever she kept saying, my brother, blah, blah, blah. Damon showed up, and then she got all like, oh my God, reacting to his voice, when at the time I remember just thinking like, oh, Damon's scary, like everybody's afraid of Damon. Like, I didn't think he was her brother until she was like, my brother looked at me, and I literally underlined the line this time and like double highlighted it and put a little bright red tab because my jaw hit the floor. Like I just remember sitting on that plane being like not being able to react because I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm insane. But yeah, I was so shook. I had no idea. And now reading it, like there's so much foreshadowing for it, like so many parts, like little lines here and there, that it just makes so much sense now that I know. Like even like whenever Kai saw her for the first time on the bike, he noticed that she was dressed really similarly to how they dress, like how their friend group dressed. He pointed that out, and it's like because she's wearing Damon's like hand-me-down clothes, and it's like I know that now, but at the time I was just like, okay, weird. Crazy. Also, like this book is just so different from Corrupt, and I remember going through this the last time I read this where like it's good for sure, but it's just a transition. It's funny, like Banks is so different from Rika. Like the first time I read Corrupt, I liked Rika, like I didn't have a problem with her, but it's so funny, like once we start being inside of Banks's head and like seeing her and her interactions with the guys, Rika just seems so like different. Like I didn't mind Rika when I read Corrupt, but as I read the other books, it's like I liked her less and less. Like Banks is just polar opposite of her, right? Like she's not a rich girl, she's not like, she doesn't dress up super pretty, she doesn't even wear any makeup, like she's not like most girls. Like she's just so different, and it's like she doesn't care for Rika's shit. Like she just so polar opposite, and she just is such a like badass, strong, independent woman compared to Rika. But aside from that, it's funny because like the whole Damon situation, like I just, at this point in the story and in the series, it's like you're still supposed to hate Damon, right? Like we just think he's like the crazy psychopath, like evil guy. But once you realize like that he has Banks as a sister and that he cares so deeply for her, as screwed up as their relationship is, as screwed up as his entire family tree is, it's like this book is where you start to kind of like see glimpses of him that are like somewhat redeeming. Like you start to understand that like he is just a poor broken boy that's been through so much trauma and so much shit, and obviously the way that he treats Banks is like not okay, but it's like she really was like his only like light of hope in this world, and like the one person he could cling to and hold on to, and that he like truly loved and cared for so much. And even though their relationship is so toxic and fucked up, it's like it's still kind of beautiful in a way. Like I don't know, but I love seeing these glimpses of Damon, like knowing that when the first time I read it, I was like, oh my God, like he's, of course I still kind of loved him because I'm crazy. But the first time I read it being like, oh my God, like he's awful, like he's so terrible, like this guy is the worst. But now knowing that like, I love him, I'm like, aw, it's just, I don't know. Again, it's a reread, so the whole point of this is to like pick up on the things that I missed, and I'm having such a fun time with it. So yeah, time to get back to present day and keep this going. Also, like nobody knowing that Banks was Damon's sister, not knowing at all that he had a sister, like all this time, like so crazy. And then whenever we find out later, I'm jumping ahead, but whenever we find out that like Michael knew and nobody else knew, so crazy, so bonkers. Okay, I gotta keep going. All right, hello guys. I am about 400 pages into Hideaway, so I have about 100 pages left, and I just had to check in because, to be quite honest, I haven't checked in on my whole reading vlog situation for this in a little over a week. I'm having the exact same experience reading this book the second time around that I did the first time around, and that is, I was so sucked in the beginning and I was really interested, and then for some reason right in the middle of this book, I don't know why, but it just feels like it starts to drag a little bit. It just gets a little, I don't know if boring is the right word, but it just like doesn't, I feel like it's the second Banks actually kind of like admits that she has feelings for Kai. I feel like it's those like 150 pages in the middle where I just get a little like, like, okay, like how do you not see yet that she is clearly Damon's sister? Like how have you not run through all these possibilities in your head yet? I think there's just like a little while in the middle there where it just is a little slow. And Again, I haven't checked in like a week, so I apologize if I repeat myself, but one thing I do love about this book that I've always loved about it is, again, we meet Rika in the first book and we see her, and genuinely, I don't really have that many like issues with Rika in the first book. Like, she's fine when she's all that we know, but I just love the way that Banks like puts her in her place. Like, she's the only person that is not like gonna put up with Rika's shit and is not like thinking that she is some princess and like deserving of everything. Like, one of the scenes that I vividly remembered from the first time reading this book is when Banks just like beats up Rika for no reason. Like, she's just in a bad mood and she sees her at the wrong time, and she's obviously jealous because of the whole steam room situation, and she just like lets her have it. And Rika's like, what is wrong with you? And then when she has to obviously like admit to Kai that she's jealous, even though she doesn't want to, like, I loved all of that. But just now, the whole scene happened where Kai like signed the contract because Banks wouldn't come with him, and part of the contract, if he signs it, is that he gets Banks until the wedding, and she wouldn't agree to come with him because she's afraid. It's like, do I stay with the devil I know, or do I go with the devil that I don't? She's too afraid to like leave the comfort of Gabriel Torrance's house. And Kai like signed the contract, and so Rika's trying to like talk to Banks and be like, I've known Kai for a long time, like he only did that because he was mad at you. And she's like, I've known him much longer than you, like don't educate me on him. Which, okay, yes, go Banks. Like, Rika, you do not know everyone. Like, you are not like you don't know everything. And so I just love those little moments again where Rika's like put in her place. But also I'm like, Banks, girl, like you and Kai had a thing for literally 5 minutes like 6 years ago. Like, it spanned over the course of like 24 hours and you haven't talked in forever. So I think it's so funny how like both of them are trying to act like they know him like so well, when it's like, okay, chill out. But regardless, that aside, I do like it. I like Banks. I like that she's so strong, but I just like, I think it's funny how disconnected this book feels from the rest of the series. And I feel like I've already said this, but like all the other books focus on the original Devil's Night to some extent, and it's like they all kind of like wrap up in this pretty bow where it's like that flashback with like the present time, where like Banks and Kai's story just feels very separate from all of it, like because it's that like different year and she wasn't at all a part of that Devil's Night. So that's like one thing that I don't love. Like, something about their story just feels very separate from the rest of the people's story. But whatever, that's just like a side note and just something that I've always kind of thought about. I can't remember if I mentioned this either. I'm sorry. I added a tab for Will and Damon moments / foreshadowing / whatever. And I'm so glad that I did, because there have been so many little just like mentions in this book of like Will and Damon are closer than the rest of the group. And like Will and Damon are whatever, the best of friends, and that Will knows Damon better than anybody else. Like, I just love all those little like one-liners mentioned throughout the book, because like obviously we learn more in Kill Switch about how truly close and inseparable and how bonded Will and Damon are, and it's like one of my favorite parts of this entire series. So having those little foreshadowing moments like in these previous books, and then again just like seeing all the bits of Will, knowing how much I love him now, like he's such an underdog. Like, you don't think much of him the first time you read the series, but once you know how much you love him by the end of the series, going back and just seeing like how helpful he is and how he's always just like there, and he's just such a like sweet soul. But like, it's like Kai is the sweet one, but Will is the sweet one with like a dash of spice, you know? Like, Will to me is just the perfect balance of all of these boys in one. Like, he is just such a good friend, and he's just always there, and he's like down for whatever. But I just like, I love him so much. So many little moments. Whenever he was helping Banks like shop for clothes with Alex, like all of that stuff, it's just been so cute. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and power through and finish these last 100 pages. I know that this is where it like really picks up again, and we have the whole like craziness with like Damon showing up and all of that. So I'm excited to get into that. I feel like we've gotten over the hump, and from here on out it is like pretty wild. So yeah, ready to power through this and get to Kill Switch. Okay guys, I just finished Hideaway, and I seriously thought that I remembered everything that happened at the end, and clearly I did not. I totally forgot that Damon was staying at the Delcor the whole time. I thought that he was at the Pope, but the Delcor was the old Pope because Damon's family used to own it before Michael's family owned it. So he had literally been there under like their noses the entire time, which like made so much sense of why he like knew about Erica sleeping and whatnot. Like it just, whenever you find that out, you're like, oh my God, he's literally been right there. Literally bonkers. But Damon, reading the ending of this book, like knowing Damon now, it's like the first time that you read this series, you're just in your head, you think Damon is just such a psychopath, right? You're so pissed at him. You're like, why won't he let Banks go? Why is he trying to kill his friends? Like, why is he just like the worst human ever? And I remember the first time reading this book being like so scared of Damon and just being like, oh my God, like so freaked out. And by the end, I'm just like, somebody kill him. Like I thought they were gonna like kill him off like Trevor or something. But rereading it now, like just seeing how freaking broken this poor boy is. Like he's had the hardest life and the shittiest family. Like his dad is like the worst person I've probably ever read in a book. Like I cannot stand that man. And like obviously his mom was crazy and he's just never felt like anybody has loved him except for Banks. And then she obviously now is with Kai, his best friend, who he feels like betrayed him. Like it's just all so much. And I literally like every single line at the end, and then him literally after like everything that happened still saving Rika from like the fiery curtains that were gonna fall on her head. Like Damon just deserves my whole heart. I just love him. I love him and I love his journey, and I love reading it a second time. It just is so different, the experience, and it's very fun. It's funny, he's in so little of this book, but he is absolutely the star of it. Like I am confident in saying that. The vast majority of tabs that I used were for Damon, especially at the end there. It's like I was trying to just do one tab for that whole scene, but I couldn't do it. He just had so many like little lines and moments and spots where I was like, baby. So many Damon tabs at the end there, but also so many little Will and Damon moments. Again, like just knowing how close they are now and like knowing what's coming for them. You can just see how truly heartbroken Will is over the fact that Damon betrayed them and how much he still cares for him and how pissed he is at him. But at the end of the day, he's still like his best friend, like his brother. Like he wants to forgive him, and he's like, you literally tried to kill me and you were my favorite person in the world. Like how am I supposed to react to that? Like the whole situation is so messed up. And I put several of my little Will and Damon tabs there at the end because you can just see like they are just kind of separate from the rest of the group. Like even though they are all like a group of 4, Will and Damon are just their own special little thing that like nobody else can replace and nobody else can relate to, and I just love it. But yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I'm very happy to be done with this book. It took me so much longer to get through it than Corrupt. I love this series. I love this series as a whole. I love every character in this series, but just by far this book, and reading it a second time has confirmed it. Like it's just, it's my least favorite for sure in the series. And it's hard because I know what's coming, like Kill Switch, getting into this, and Nightfall. It's like Winter is my favorite girl character. Will is my favorite guy character. Damon, again, is just like the star of this series. Love him or hate him. Like you cannot think of Devil's Night without thinking of Damon Torrance. So this book having so little of him in there, and then just again the transition from how Corrupt is so different than the rest of these books, and really shifting to just the focus being on like one main couple, and again the Devil's Night not being the original Devil's Night in this story. Like it's just very different. It's necessary to the series, and of course it's still great. Like I'm not saying it's not, but it's just compared to the rest of it, it's hard getting through this one. And I feel like this is not really going to be a book that I reread again. Like I'm so glad I reread it this time, but I feel like after I finish this series, I will probably just go back and like handpick Corrupt or Nightfall or Kill Switch, and I feel like I won't reread this for a while. Maybe like in a few years or something. We'll see. I might get in a mood next week and be like, let me reread Hideaway right away. Probably not happening, but you know, you never know with me. Yeah, I'm ready to go on to Kill Switch. So ready. All right, guys, I don't know why I expected anything less of myself, but this reread process has gotten a lot more rambly and chaotic and all over the place than I originally expected. So I decided I'm actually gonna do this video in 2 parts. This first video obviously was just Corrupt and Hideaway, and then I'm going to do another video for my reread of Kill Switch and Nightfall, because this is just gonna be like 2 hours long if I upload it together. It's too much. We'll spread it out a little bit. We'll draw out the suspense. I am almost done with Kill Switch now, so gonna finish that up and then obviously do nightfall. So hopefully the next video won't be too far out, but yeah, I know so many of you guys that follow me on Instagram have been asking for this video, so I just wanted to get you guys what I could, and yeah, we're just having fun with this process. It's been a really good time. I hope you guys enjoyed what you've seen so far. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye, guys.